Hello everybody, welcome to another Sunday Funday, and I don't know how best way to describe this. Pretty much I decided I wanted to watch something extra because it make up for the fact that y'all didn't get a review really last week, even though I was giving y'all two obviously this week. I'm like, I still want to give them three. So let's watch something else. And I was just kind of perusing through Netflix and I saw there was a new film out. And this film, of course, has the so eloquently titled Last Days of American Crime.
We're all hurt the ones who try and love us.
Not saying that title is just a mouthful, but I figure there would be a better way to describe that. So, what is the last days of American crime? It's not very good is what it is. So, long and short of the story. Because, mind you, it's long. It's nearly 2.5 hours long. Like, I started up, I was like, oh, okay, well, let's see. Holy shit, why is this 2.5 hours long? So, the film is all about the fact that America is about to institute this thing called the API, I believe. Pretty much it is going to render people they're going to be unable to be able to perform crimes due to this signal that you would figure would affect everybody. The movie has a lot of problems with that, to just start up with that much. But you would think, okay, well, what does that matter? You know, it's an interesting premise, but how is there going to be a story for that? And what it is that there is this one group who is technically led by this guy named Kevin. That's a real gangster name there. He is trying to organize this one last hurrah, one last heist before the effect happens. Because afterwards they won't be able to do things. I will get into the actual science of it and try and dissect my issues with that after I finish the plot synopsis. And he enlists the help of this guy. His name is Graham Brick. Now, mind you, that's a dumb name. But more importantly than all of that, that's the rest of the movie. That it's just about, oh, this guy, he has to help this one dude pull off a heist. It seems like that would be a fairly simple enough setup, right? It sounds fairly straightforward. So why does it need 2.5 hours? Because this movie drags its heels with every little thing. Oh my god, can I not tell you the amount of bullshit that this movie just wastes? Like, the actual plot of the film does not get moving for nearly 30 minutes. Like, the actual beginning of Kevin deciding to get Brick to help him do this heist doesn't start till after we have watched Brick monologue slowly and very passionately. And I get it, it's based on a noir graphic novel, but guess what? If you're pretty much going by a trope way of doing things, doesn't make your movie any bit magically better. Because he begins to sound, with his whole thing of doing this, like he's really, really bored and trying to fight back sleep. And the lead character, he's played by Edgar Martinez. Those who do not know him, sorry, you probably just don't because you don't watch shitty movies. The biggest thing I think he's been in was Gold with Matthew McConaughey. And, alright, so Edgar Martinez is Venezuelan. That's cool. That's fine. It's perfectly okay. And I'm not saying that somebody who is of a different descent or from a different country can't act in another movie that's supposed to be set in America. No, not saying that at all. He isn't fluent in the English language, though. There are times when he is supposed to be saying certain words and he's not saying them. Or he is flubbing the word. There are moments whenever Edgar Martinez is supposed to be conveying something, but because he doesn't seem to understand what he's truly supposed to be saying, because obviously a lot of this is bullshit that they make up, like some of the science they try to use. Gonna get into it, promise you. It's inane at times, and because of that, there's certain things I'm guessing just Edgar Martinez is not translating as well. I don't know if Edgar Martinez does know English fluently, but he doesn't seem to speak it as well. So because of that, there's a lot of muddiness with all of his words. And sure, it might work with a crime film if it was set in Italy, like an actual giallo film. But here it's set obviously in not Detroit, that is actually probably Toronto. And if I will say one thing, if I can give this movie some positive, because that's all I can really give it, it doesn't look like they spent $3 on it. It looks like they spent a bit of money on it. Never mind the fact that still the movie's fucking tedious to get through. Because, one, you have to put up with Grand Brick's gravel the entire time. And it's okay in an hour and a half. 2.5 hours, I'm beginning to test my patience to its limits. His gravel just gets so silly after a while. And his attempts at trying to sound smart, tough, or anything like that, I expected him to start talking like he's out of a Frank Miller Sin City novel or anything like that. The city talks beneath my feet. She says, "Ow, that's my nipple." It's so stupid, and it's so over the top. And it's just like this amount of idiocy in this writing. It's like, not every graphic novel needs to be turned into a movie. Just saying. Especially considering we have to also have, her name is Anna Brewster, I believe is the actress's name. She plays a character named Shelby. And turns out she likes having sex with Brick because reasons? I don't know. I think I called him Graham Brick, but his name is Graham Brick, not Brick Graham, but they keep calling him Brick by his last name. Because I guess they are in the military. Never really explained real well why they do that. But yeah, after like nearly 30 minutes, we get introduced to this random female character who's talking to him. And this is also after he talked to this other random dude who looks like David Carradine. About like some neurotoxin. It's like, use it yourself. This is like Russian nuclear or not nuclear, truly actually neurotoxin. Don't ask. It's just like an Amazon product. It just has 4,000 fucking titles. It does what you think it needs to do. I don't know what the hell's going on. And the bad thing is like 20 minutes in, I'm like, I don't know what the hell's happening in this movie. I'm sitting here watching this as close as possible. And this. But yeah, Anna Brewster, she plays Shelby. One, you don't learn this character's name till fucking an hour in. That's really obnoxious. The movie's like, hey, I'm not going to teach this character's name. And so you're just going to have to guess with the best of them. What'd you want to call her? Shitface. That sounds cool. But she wants to have sex with Brick because she wants to cross-night him off her list. Have sex with the loser. Deep? I don't know. It's like a noir written by a 2-year-old. It's like you you told a computer to watch a bunch of noirs, read a bunch of them, and it's like, here, spit out a script and give it to me. It's like, here you go. It's this kind of shitty thing. And on top of all that, we have to constantly have these weird cuts over to, out of all people, Charlotte Copley. Now, Charlotte Copley's awesome. He's just hilarious in most things. Or he's actually really freaking threatening in everything. Or he can be just the best actor in the entire film, i.e. Chappie. But Here, he doesn't have a purpose. Like, literally, we keep cutting over to him. He's this cop who ends up, shows up at the end during the heist for a little bit, but he doesn't have an actual purpose to the entire film. I think there's supposed to be an arc for him, but it's so subtle to the point to where it becomes kind of forgettable because it ends over halfway through the movie and doesn't actually get a resolution till he dies, I think. And even then, it's one of those like, but what, why do you have to have an actor like Charlotte Copley in this role? You could just have any schmo doing this. Not only that, but why are we cutting to him? He doesn't add anything to the entire film. It doesn't add any kind of intrigue. It doesn't make me care about anything that's happening throughout this. It doesn't make me give a shit about this actor or this character, except for the fact, hey, Charlotte Copley. Oh, cool, you can act decently, and he's just not given anything to do. Why? So it's like, alright, well, there's 20 minutes we can chop off and make it at least a 2-hour flick. Thanks. But constantly, we're having to get throughout the first hour and a half of this movie, we have to get Brick having sex with Shelby, Brick dealing with Kevin, and learn the fact he's part of this mob boss, or he's his mob boss's son, who ended up, like, kind of disowning him or something, and then they have to do this one thing because they need to have some kind of action scene. She's like, well, we have too much of Brick having sex with Shelby. Like, it happens like 3 or 4 times in the entire movie. It gets kind of silly after a bit, them having sex. It's almost a trope in and of itself. It's like, aha, let's see how many times we can hide the weenie. And so the one, like, action sequence you get whenever they decide, like, oh, we're gonna try to break into, or they're gonna try and get weapons from his dad, from Kevin's dad, you're supposed to, I guess, give a shit about all this other stuff, like, because Kevin just starts randomly blowing up at his dad and screaming at him the whole time. And it's like, why do I care? I don't like the character Kevin. He's kind of a punk. He's kind of a spoiled rich kid, in a nice way of putting it. And on top of everything, they're just saying, well, this past thing you've done is against me. Well, this past thing has been done against me. I don't care. It's not in the movie. It's just said to us. I don't give a shit. Show me it. Anything. Like, we just randomly get this, like, oh, this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. And then the mob boss dies, because things. But that also has to lead to Shelby getting kidnapped and getting drugged, and she was going to get raped by Brick Stazer, so now she can have sex with Brick again. Because, Lord knows, I haven't seen them have sex yet in the movie. Oh, this movie is so stupid. Oh, God. And I get it. It's supposed to be a noir. But it's like they decided to write a noir without using a brain. It's like, hey, how can we write a movie without actually using any of our intelligence? Let's make, hey, the last days of crime in America. Sorry, if I fuck up the entire title of this film, it's because, again, it's a mush, it's overtly long, and on top of everything, it kind of doesn't have much of a... It sort of has a payoff at the end of it, but the rest of it is there's no payoff. There's just wasting time till we get to this heist. Because also, Brick's supposed to have this driver friend of his that supposedly helped him with other things. He's given, like, no real actual development. Not saying we need another character with more of development. Not that development's bad, but again, we have all these other characters getting development. Because we gotta learn that she's involved with the FBI, because the FBI is trying to get Kevin. For reasons that aren't explained really well. Because, again, that's this movie's MO. Don't explain any reasons, just let them be. And on top of everything, I have to get to the actual science of the fucking movie, which is the signal that they're talking about. Alright, so the signal is supposed to stop your brain from wanting to do crime, and just pretty much makes you, is how they decide to act it out. Instead of it just being, they just stop and they can't, and they just go about and do something else, it just seemed to, like, just, and just make noises the whole time. Why? And why does it not affect everybody this way? Because it's one of those that it's so vague in how it wants to do things and how it wants to explain. It's like, okay, I get it. It's like, okay, you don't have to super go into all the science for me. But what about normal people? I get it. This is noir. Everybody's a hooker or they're a, murderer. But it's just, we don't see the schmoes. We don't see the slubs. It's like, all right, well, this is affecting me, and it's causing radiation in my brain, and brain explodes. None of that. We just get, it's like, oh, well, it affects only criminals. Well, what kind of criminals does it affect? Does it just affect people whenever they're trying to murder people? Does it just affect people when they're trying to steal? What kind of crimes does it figure out? Does it consider jaywalking a crime? Does it consider speeding a crime? What does it stop? Because there's sometimes it doesn't have any effect. Like at one point, it's supposed to be going off, but obviously Shelby's able to just ignore it and just plants a bomb and blows up a building. Okay, nice to know we can just ignore all things of the entire film for reasons. And not only that, but somehow the signal still comes back on. It's like, but the actual area, how the signal's being transmitted, all the information for it is bluey. It's blown up. How does that work? Oh, and that's a problem. You cannot introduce an element within your film that can actively hurt it by being either A, poorly explained, B, poorly thought out, or C, poorly executed. Somehow you did all three. That's a magnificent, and just like, oh, I have to figure out a way to make this action to be terrible? Aha, I'm going to figure out how to break my neck, get my own foot shoved in my butthole, oh, and then on top of everything, poop out my own foot covered in my butthole juices. Congratulations, you managed to completely confuse everything, make little to no sense, and on top of it all, make me not give a shit about anything. That's special there. I have not seen a movie attempt that in a while. Yeah, and only that, but somehow Burke is superhuman, never mind the fact this is never really explained, because he is shot at one point blank range in the stomach by a shotgun, and he kind of dies after like a few hours. I'm sorry, this area kind of important. I don't care how he wasn't wearing armor or nothing. Just oh god, it hurts. It hurts. I need to die dramatically, and after 12 hours of agony, he dies. Oh god, this movie sucks ass. Oh. And the bad thing is, the movie doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long. Well, I'm sorry, it's 2 hours and 20 minutes. But it feels like a goddamn torture test. And it's bad because how crummy the acting is. Like, none of the acting fits. Edgar Martinez is mushmouth throughout the entire thing. Shelby feels like she's entirely miscast throughout this. It feels like she's supposed to be a younger actress, but it's an older lady, which is fine. It's perfectly okay. But she's supposed to be obviously a bit younger. And just never works with what she's supposed to be saying. Kevin is just the epitome of balls, and you just hate his character the entire time. It's like they decided to regurgitate Ninja from Chappie, if I can mention that movie again. Charlotte Copley doesn't make sense being in the movie, so his entire scenes are superfluous at best. And the worst part is the heist is not really interesting. Like, there's no, like, oh, look how they're going to do this, or any kind of twists or turns or anything. Like, the biggest twist is the fact of how Brick learns his brother dies, which is the reason why he decides to get into this. It's like, but I don't care. There, before his brother dies, there's only one scene where they show Brick's brother, because movie, like, goes forward and then flashes back and then moves forward and flashes back, and it's doing this jarring switching back and forth shit, and I'm like, can you stick for 5 seconds on one topic? I don't know where the hell we're going right now. It's like your friend trying to sit there and take you to Whataburger instead of actually just going straight down the street like where it is. Oh, it's gotta take the back roads. We gotta go back up an alley. And we gotta go through somebody's house just because it's cool. And just, the movie's just bad, y'all. It's... I would argue that it's kind of almost like a Bloodshot level of just so incompetent. So many bad ideas went into this, and nobody reined them in when, hey, that's stupid. Let's not do that. That I'd almost say it's almost worth watching if you like a good bad flick, but it's just a bad movie. Like, no ifs, ands, or buts. This is just so much, like, badness. Just, I don't even know how to keep describing it. It's just simply about bad. It's just, there's just this terrible amount of acting throughout it that none of it ever fits. Sure, it's supposed to be a noir, but gravel eventually begins to feel like just utter just glass shards getting shoved into your ear hole. And on top of that, I really don't care about Anna Brewster's boobs being seen all the time. Thanks for showing me your mosquito bites. And then on top of everything, we have a movie that just drags its heels about actually having a point, about having a purpose. It's funny. Netflix has done this twice this year. How do you fail in that kind of level? How do you manage to put out two movies that are not just poorly done, bad acting, but also are utterly, just bafflingly at times, incoherent? Like, that is the premise of this movie, pretty much. Like, you don't have to say anything about any kind of special, like, messing Ray with your brain things. You don't have to say anything about the heist. You don't have to say anything. Just call it utterly incompetent, and you can use that to also describe the last thing he wanted. You can use that to describe both these movies in a nutshell. And the bad thing is, both these movies were very heavily pushed also in the same instance by Netflix. And not going to get into controversy. People, like some critics want to, this is appalling to put out during the Black Lives Matter protests. Oh, suck a dick, you bunch of self-righteous hippies. I don't even know how else to describe it at this point. Because A, the movie barely has any black characters in it. B, they're actually the ones who are in power, the one black character I can think of. And C, you actually have mostly the bad guys get their comeuppance. And it has nothing to do with riots. Or really anything. Because the whole backdrop of the idea of this, like, brain thing, the actual thing that gives it validity and something that you could latch onto, that you could tell a story with, you know, the idea of stripping people of their rights. Something that, again, Simon Phoenix has even spoken of in Demolition Man. I hate to bring up a much better movie in a shittier movie's review, but you can't take away people's rights to be an asshole. It is the honest truth. You just can't. And that's the thing. It's like, that's what this movie should be about. That's what would be a lot more interesting. But instead, it wants to be about money and a heist and trying to pretend it's got some deep or gravelly thing it needs to say. But dear God, I can't fucking understand it because your lead actor doesn't know how to speak fucking English. You know what? If you wanted to make him of Spanish descent, that's cool. Fine with that. I have no problem with that. Have him speak Spanish. I don't care. I can read subtitles. I don't mind reading subtitles. Just let him fucking be Spanish. Don't care. It fits. I mean, you could still make it in America and still have the character speak nothing but Spanish. I don't know why that's hard. Instead, you have a character who is trying to say things who, one, he doesn't seem to understand stuff. Two, I don't need to hear gravel growl the entire time. Like, literally, he can replace his dialogue with that of a dog who is trying to figure out if its owner is about to take its food and it's actually really hungry and it's growling at him. You can replace his dialogue with all of that and you still get the same outcome. I don't get how you fail this bad. And that is the thing. Like I said, it's a compelling, like, just awfulness to watch. But it's not one like Bloodshot. Like, Bloodshot's at least watchable again and again because of just how just bafflingly simple some of the mistakes are that they made. And some of the easier mistakes that they could have corrected and they decided not to were. But here, it's just utter terrible. There's just nothing that you want to give a shit about. And that's the thing. You don't care about the characters. You don't care about the actual plot of everything. And the only thing that you really kind of give any damns about is like the actual thing of this thing that's supposed to rid people of their rights. Or, it's like it's doing it for the safety of people, and that's an actual message that could be there. Instead, it's set in a backdrop of something where you can't pay attention to it. Because, one, the science doesn't make sense. The actual actions of the characters when they're being exposed to certain things doesn't make sense. Oh, God, this movie. It's like a 4 3/4. Nah, this movie is a 1 because it's so painstakingly, like, incapable of actually having a thought that is semi-intelligent. It seems to be almost a unique trait with this film that is it's just a unable to actually be semi-intelligent. It's almost blissfully stupid. It's actually kind of wonderful. It's like trying to read half of Twitter comments. I don't know. Fuck the movie. It doesn't even understand the basics of how to do a good noir film. Hell, it doesn't even know how to make a good movie without having to have all this extraneous bullshit I just don't care about. Like, I don't care about the FBI guys at one point harassing and abusing Shelby. I don't care about Kevin's daddy issues. I just want the movie to move forward. And that's what the movie never understands. Like, hey, let's go for a pit stop for 3.5 hours. Yay. Ugh, just if you want to watch something that is just a train wreck and a half, watch it once, but don't watch it ever again. It's bad, guys. It's real bad. But hey, that's the last day of American Crime, or whatever the hell the name of the damn movie is. I don't care at this point. It's so incompetent that it's almost at least worthy of watching. Just be like, don't do this. But hey, that's my opinion. That's my third review. I figured I had to get one shitty film in while I watched all these actually good movies for a change. Thank you, Color Out Space and VFW, for at least not being what I just watched. But hey, we'll be back next week with some more films. Who knows what's going to be. I think I have an idea of one of the movies that might be just, want something to spice it up and, kind of give me a little bit of more flavor than what the other thing's going to give me. So until then, see you all there. So bye-bye, everybody.